Welcome to the Crossroads Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? It's your man, Hunter Grand, your personal agent for change, making life easy, Barzini.
And I'm Fempreneur Extraordinaire, Tech Diva all day, Dre Renee.
And this is the Crossroads, where there's only one rule.
Be free to be you.
So, y'all, we are back for part 2 of our conversation with Dr. Harold Eugene Vann II, the Black Couch. There was just too much to cover in one episode, and part 2 also will not disappoint. So we're about to get ready for part 2. Make sure you see part 1 as well, so that you're current with the discussion. If you haven't seen last week's episode, you want to see that in part 2. And we have some all kind of behind the scenes. The conversation didn't stop. Like, we were probably talking for about 4 hours, right?
Right.
So go to the Patreon and you will get the additional content, additional discussion, stuff that wasn't said on the public discussion. Let's say that there's some more that was said and revealed in our private conversation that that we've had permission to release. And
you don't want to miss it.
You know what? I'll give you one quote. Dr. Vann said this: "I know what I'm saying, and I know I'm being recorded."
Absolutely.
So, with that being said, you don't want to miss part 1 or part 2, but definitely you don't want to miss the behind the scenes conversation as well, which is a little bit more off record and informal. So y'all don't want to miss that. All right. So here you go. Part 2 with Dr. Harold Eugene Vann II, the Black Couch.
Long overdue the time where we need to lower the pulpit in these sacred buildings called temples. Because the higher you posture me, subconsciously, you're deifying me.
Right.
And if you prop me up as a moral man, having never done anything wrong, and more importantly, can never do anything wrong, that's why he or she is up there. When I expose my flesh, my proclivities, my predilections to you, and my predisposition to sin, it devastates you. And you don't want to give me grace. You don't want to give me mercy because I broke your theological heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's a proper statement. Lower
from that.
Yeah. Lower.
Because who do you go to talk about the fact that your pastor broke your theological heart?
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Right. Dre, the meme that I sent you yesterday.
Yes.
So when you were saying you were saying lowering the pulpit.
Let me let you finish. Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, so there was a post that was posted in the discussion that was happening because she posted something saying that
not me, someone else.
Actually, someone else.
Okay.
I sent it to Drake because I wanted to bring it up on the show today, where someone was like, "Your pastor is not your equal." And so it was like saying like, "Don't be too familiar with your pastor." It's more I guess the juxtaposition to is how you would treat your parents, right? Like you wouldn't say or do things that in front of your parents, and so you shouldn't say or do things in front of your pastor. I responded with the question that hadn't gotten responded to. I was say so because what I said was, if I wouldn't do certain things, if God is omnipresent and he's there when I'm saying and doing these things that I wouldn't say in front of my mom or my pastor, then why then would I honor my pastor in a way that I'm not honoring God? Right. So it's like, if I shouldn't say this to my parents, or I shouldn't say this to my pastor in front of my pastor or my parents, why am I saying it in front of God? Which means, why am I saying it at all? So it's kind of like, hey, say or do these things, but don't say or do them in front of your parents or your pastor. And it just didn't make sense to me. It was like to say, I didn't necessarily agree with like, oh, your pastor is not your equal. Your pastor is a man. He has a job. Like he's may or may not have been anointed to do this or called to do this.
That's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother, right? But let's just say called and anointed. It doesn't make you not my equal as far as, especially in the eyes of God or men. Your job is different. Your call is different, right? I have a calling and anointing in another area. That's That's what I do, right? So if I attend your church, yes, I follow your ministry, but as men, right? Like I'm just not someone who pedestals people. You know, I can listen to the Spirit through you and the message. You know, sometimes I can even separate a message from the messenger.
You have to.
Yeah, I'm not perfect at that, but you know, there are times. So what would you say to that, to those we spoke to those who cast a cloud in judgment, right? Which you said is the audience. But what of those who pedestal pastors and it's like, hey, not our equal, and these are God's called, and they should be treated, and you know.
Let's debunk that. Let's debunk that right here. The pastor is a moral leader, spiritual guy, but I'm not perfect in the moral sense. In fact, I argue in the book, Dre Renee, I'm ordained to be a spiritual leader because I'm flawed and have cleaned up some things, but I just didn't clean it up while I was being a pastor. So I'm arguing iconoclasm, which is a fancy term for destroying religious objects that we idolize. Yeah. We're idolizing men and women of God because that $1,600 clergy robe makes me look regal. And that regalia makes me look holy. But underneath the gown, I'm an immoral mess. And that is what we really don't want to deal with. Because here it is. I'm coming to church to get an instruction on the destruction of my life. I can't afford to hear destruction from a person when I'm trying to get instruction, right? So it messes me up theologically. But when I'm arguing in the book entitled I'm Hurting, to lower the pulpit to where I'm no longer above you or you're below me, but we're on the same level as human beings, because I emphasize Jesus was not only above you, but he was also with you. And we realize that certain pastors, and I blast certain pastors in here, particularly black ones, and I couch it I frame it in the Oz or the Wiz, the black version of the Wizard of Oz. We spend the entirety of the movie seeking wisdom, different ways from the Oz, only to find out the Oz is Richard Pryor in pajamas behind a curtain and more afraid of you than you are of being lost and not being able to get home. So the Wiz is a fraud. Wisdom was in you all along because of the Holy Spirit of God. You don't need the man or woman of God to usher you into the Spirit. You do that. So you're looking up at me to give you something I'm ill-equipped to give you. But you're ignorant of that fact. I'm a facilitator. So debunk point number 2. How does it not make sense to say the pastor's not your equal? Don't tell or do certain things in front of the pastor. What do you think goes on behind closed doors in pastoral counseling? In 25 years of pastoral counseling, ain't nothing you can tell me to shock me. I've heard it all. So you are bearing it all to the man or woman of God. Now, it's poor parenting when my child can't come to me and tell me anything that that child is dealing with outside. And see, here's the difference. I'm 58. Monday, I'll be 59 years old. I'm not a parent.
Happy birthday.
And I know that for sure. I ain't got no kids. But now I'll be a better parent because I'll have conversations with another human being who reasons differently, but we're still going to have conversation. Okay, so what happened in school today? Why did you say that? Why did you do that? Instead of me saying, don't say that, don't do that. Teaching pedagogically why they shouldn't do it, why they shouldn't say it. I'll be a better parent at 58, well, 59, because ain't nobody expecting. I'll be a better parent at 59. And God forbid if I ever became a pastor in my 20s, because I would have destroyed that child's life. because I was ignorant. I was immature.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask now about the journey. So we're in 2004. The church has asked you to leave or kicked you out in your words. What happens from there? Are you on the healing journey there, or is there more hurt that you are?
Or I spiraled downward.
Okay. Can you take us on?
Let's
journey?
go.
More bedrooms, more strip clubs. And I lost a sense of reality because in a restaurant, if my server was a female, I thought she was going to strip.
Oh.
Lost all sense of reality. And if you were a female, you had two purposes: either give it to me or lead me to it.
Okay.
And so lost, because it's not a conscious behavior of just trying to sin. That's the salvation of it all. That's King David. Behold, fearfully and wonderfully I am made. Search and try me, Lord, and if you find any wicked way, bring it to my consciousness that I may confess it. Ding, 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 ding. We're sinning unconsciously because we're consciously just trying to kill the pain.
Yeah.
So I moved to Los Angeles in 2005, just broken. Trauma knows trauma. So I run to a strip club in Los Angeles and I meet a stripper and we're getting down. Every Monday we meet. We spend the night at the Renaissance Hotel at the LAX airport. Wake up Tuesday morning, she go her way, I go my way. I'll see you next Monday. So I'm just lost at this point. And so the journey toward healing was 41 years old when my ex-girlfriend says to me, "You're cute, but you're crazy. And Butchie is going to destroy Harold if you don't kill Butchie." So loving her, I'm listening to her. If you don't kill Butchie, my nickname, he's going to destroy Harold. So I go to counseling and I sit on the couch and I say to the therapist, I'm here because I don't want the next 41 years of my life to mirror the first 41. So the black couch, Dre Renee, to your earlier question, the symbolism of the black couch is revelation, epiphany, and healing. That's the symbolism that is now a threaded theme through the rest of the book. Revelation, epiphany, and healing. Where is your black couch?
Yeah.
As I'm looking over at my black couch.
I got one downstairs. I'm like,
It's the point of
let me go
your
spend some time.
revelation.
Sit there.
It's the point of your epiphany, and it's the point of your healing. It's proverbial. Your couch may be a chair. Your chair may be a bicycle. Your bicycle may be a building. It's wherever you realize you are hurting.
Yeah, and so many people are hurting in so many different places. Like a lot of people can't spot their starting point, or trace back to age 7 or where the pain began and stuff like that. So for those watching, I would definitely encourage you to start with now, and
that's where the psychotherapist helps.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's not only sometimes because you have so much going on, it's not the starting point may not be what's hurting you, but that you're hurting. Right. And so you have to get to what's hurting you.
I don't disagree.
Right? Yeah. But no, I'm saying that to them, like there may be so much there that you can't identify it. So it's like, hey, it's the acknowledgement. Right. So for me, like I developed what's called the 4 A's of change, which is acknowledgement, acceptance, assessment, and action.
I guess what we call that, and we call that confession.
Oh, and there
theological.
It is.
Admittance, acknowledgement, awareness. That's what we call confession.
Yeah. So it's acknowledge there is a problem, acknowledge that there is hurt. And then you go to the steps, and then you'll identify, like when you dive in, you'll start, in recognizing things that you didn't even know were hurting you or know was problem. Like my first therapy session, like they had an intervention for me for what was going on, like depression, and how it was manifesting professionally. Like my staff trapped me in my office, was like, you going to counseling because you like literally locked me in my office and was like,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do mean to interrupt you. That's my LA girlfriend. So here's the salvation in my book. All the women that I misused for anesthesia turned out to be angelic. So my LA girlfriend says, you need help. That was my soft version of an intervention.
Yeah.
And I tried to please her by going to counseling, ended up realizing I need to be in counseling for me, not to keep her.
For you. Yeah.
And there it is. It's just, it's very freeing once you go and you kind of get comfortable there. I didn't know what was about to happen. So literally I find a therapist, and I'll share this with you. It was God, because I set 3 criteria for my therapist. Had to be Black, had to be a woman, had to be smarter than me. Right?
Well, how many PhDs did she have?
Like
7?
I was like, how'd you qualify that?
Well, I mean, you don't know.
You're a smart brother.
Yeah, you don't know until you go. But I had specific reasons for that. So one had to be Black, so you can understand me as a Black person and the Black experience, right? Had to be a woman, because when I'm talking about relationships or things that are going on with women, I wanted a woman's perspective. I wanted to be able to understand. Also, I didn't want camaraderie, because if I have a male therapist, I don't want someone in there like, bro, exactly. Because as men, we can do that because we've experienced so much of the same, but we're also seeing it through our lens. And then smarter than me, because you can start to believe your own BS, right? You can talk like, oh, I know how to rationalize, yada, yada, yada. So I don't want to fall in and convince myself that, I'm good, right? I want someone that can call me out, recognize. So especially because I'm paying for this, I want help. And so when I went, it was in person. I sat on that couch, and all she said was, where do you want to start? And I was like, where do you want to start? I was like, I don't know. I never done this before. And that's all I remember saying. 50 minutes later, I'm sitting there. I'm talking about face leaking. And I have no idea what I said or what happened, but I was just releasing. And I've been with her ever since.
Or you began the process of reclaiming you.
There it is, But I just want to encourage those, especially Black men, if you aren't in therapy or haven't gone to counseling of some sort, go. Go. And the reason why I say it was God that led me to this particular one, it was like, hey, you find, pick out 3 or, and narrow it down. We're going to pick out one as well. And we did this completely separate. And when we came together off of the website, thousands, we picked the same one. We picked the same person. And I was like, you can't argue that. And I've been with her ever since. So
congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So it's that journey though is so important. And you
right.
have to start.
So here's my issue with AA. How am I no longer alcoholic, but I keep having to say I'm alcoholic? The Apostle Paul says to the Corinthian church, the former things you were, as such of you, you were, as some of you were such these things. I'm no longer, no man according to the flesh. I'm no longer what my addiction was. Heal, the word heal, therapy in the Greek means to stitch back together, mend it. I have been reunited with myself. So here's where my ex-girlfriend was wrong. You got to kill Butchie. Butchie's going to kill Harold. So I was trying to destroy Dre Renee, this little boy, until Bradshaw's book, Homecoming, the reclaiming the wounded child, The championing of the reclaiming of the inner wounded child. So Butchie was the inner wounded child that got stuck at 7. Harold went on to grow to become the man that I am today. So Dr. Bradshaw in his book Homecoming, he says, no. Don't kill the inner wounded child. Go back and get them and grow them up. So I just posted on social media, stop talking to fools.
I think we might have to retitle our episode, but we were just talking through yesterday, listening to friends or family members and the type of advice. And sometimes, people are well-meaning.
Sure.
They just aren't well-learned, right? And so, being wise enough to know, chew the meat, spit the bones type thing,
Sure.
or who you need to listen to and who you need to just, shake your head. When the two of you were talking about acknowledgement, it just was a moment for me to receive. So I am a proponent of therapy. I have gone in spurts of my life, and I realized right before I got married, I was like, there's some things that I think I want to deal with, talk through before I do this. And it was 2020s when I got engaged, and so pandemic. And, I had this thought and idea of not necessarily a black couch, but a couch, like I want to be there in the room with you. I want to cry all my tears and have somebody sitting across the way. And so when the pandemic happened and I was like, oh, I can't get to the therapist office, it just was in the rear view. And I've been, continuing to go forward. And, there have been some things, specifically even last week, that the Lord was dealing with me on about myself, and some healing that needs to take place within myself that impacts how I operate, how I work, and that I work so much and all these other things. And the next thing that I thought about in terms of acknowledgement, and we tell people, just face it. But sometimes that pain, or even the thought of the size of that pain, will cause you to go, I'm cool. Like I know I feel a particular way, but if I have to deal with this, if I have to face this, what else is that going to do for me? And so my example really is losing my dad last year. Like I don't think I got to the bottom, if you will. Like I cry, I, feel sad, but there is always a moment of cut that out, because if you go too deep into that, you don't know how you're going to climb out of that. And I know spiritually, I've accepted Jesus, I know he's a healer. I have, asked the Holy Spirit to, live inside of me. I know all of that, but physically, mentally, emotionally, I'm like, Andrea, because I've seen people with depression and addictions, and I can't even say that I'm not already addicted to something, right? And I talk about how I work, but when I start thinking about substance abuse, right? That's scary to me. Like if I really face the gravity of this type of loss and pain, where can that actually lead me? And so for me, it's easier to stay busy. I'm podcasting. I'm, working with my clients. I'll go travel. I'll read a book. I'm going to church. I'm going to go to church again. I'm going to do all these things because that thing is too big for me. So what would you say to, someone who recognizes I need to acknowledge, I need to go to therapy, but I'm afraid of what I'm going to find when I get there? And is that something that you even had to reconcile before you decided to do that?
The first step is realizing you're in the wrong place. The prodigal son, prodigal in the Greek means wasteful and reckless. The first thing that he said to himself in the pig pen is, I'm in the wrong place. And that is a recognition of who you were born to be that begins with you are a child of God and you're in this mess. Second, it takes courage. The word courage means bravery, to face it. I 100% agree with you, Dre Renee, that it's hard to face because it requires courage. And when you face it, it's introspection that leads to retrospection that then graduates to prospection. So in order for me to stop in the middle of it and courageously look back, first I have to see the reality of healing, hope, and help of a different me. If I can't imagine a new and different me, I won't look inward. I doggone sure won't look backward.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a vision of being better. To answer your question shortly, that's where it starts. It's the pig pen of your life. It's the classic scene, I think, in the movie Boomerang, and Sister Gibbons and Eddie Murphy in the bedroom. He thought he was going to get down with Robin Givens' character, realized he's in love with Halle Berry's character. And Robin Givens' character says, well, if you love her, why are you here with me? And he said, exactly.
You got a point.
Ding, ding.
Yeah.
So the bedroom, the crack house, the whorehouse, the boardroom, wherever is your rock bottom, you have to believe it's your pig pen. And the Bible declares, and he came to himself. Mm-hmm. Behavior is influenced by belief. We're trying to move from the neck down without a commitment from the head. Every time you write out a New Year's resolution, your body goes first. And you stall in January. You stop in February. And you forgot in March. Resolution starts here, not in the body.
Yeah.
I resolve, I will stop. I resolve, I will start. And that's the pig pen. So embrace the fact that you're in dirtiness. And that's what church folk trying to shame you for. Mm-hmm. Oh, I've had Barzini, I want to take you on this ride talking about the judges. Mm-hmm. Oh, I've already been hit from family. Mm. Well, Butchie, if you were a so-called real pastor, why didn't you stop? I couldn't. I was addicted. Well, Butchie, if you were a real called man of God, why didn't you call yourself out? I'm hiding. I don't want people to know I'm a fraud because it's my living. Right? More importantly, I'll be thoroughly embarrassed. If you're going to start the journey of healing, you've got to accept embarrassment. Mm-hmm. Because pre-sin, Genesis 1 and 2, they were what? Naked and unashamed. Mm-hmm. One chapter later, they're naked and ashamed. You got to be willing to deal with the shame. So I'm ready, Dre Renee Barzini, for the naysayers, the judges, because my cousins already hit me with it. Well, if you were really a man of God, okay.
But so you said because I'm a fraud, but were you really? Right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I was a hypocrite.
But okay,
hypocrite in the Greek is you're playing a part, you're wearing a mask. Right. You ever been to a masquerade party? Mm-hmm. That's essentially hypocrisy. You're parading around as somebody else. I wasn't truly the man of God that I was called to be. That's why I had to get myself back. Then I took the mask off. And now I took the robe off. So if you are driving around tomorrow and you see a garage sale and you see clergy robes for $2.99, they're mine. You can have them.
Okay, so
I ain't gonna get rid of the custom-made suits though. But you can have them roll because I was a hypocrite.
Right. So unpack this for me and help me reconcile this in my brain. Because I'm struggling with the concept. Like if you're called, in my head at this moment, I'm struggling with believing that you are also a fraud. Maybe not ready, maybe not operating, right?
Mhm.
Anointed is anointed. Now, the problem with anointed is it goes both ways, right? You can anoint, you can be like your anointing can lead people in the wrong direction if you are not, if I'm making sense.
I'm
Um,
listening. Trust me.
and so it's like, hey, God had a calling for your life from the day that you were born. Like, hey, this is
Mhm.
what I've created for you, are the plan, and to
Mhm.
go forth. You deviated, or maybe not even deviated. Maybe you experienced what needed to be experienced in order for you to get to where you are today. Not to say that that was God's plan for you to do, but without that, this version of you
Okay.
is not here. So, like, help me out with this.
Let me give it to you in a true life anecdote.
Okay.
I saw this woman at a function in our congregation. We were in fellowship hall. Ding, 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 ding. Laser. She
What I
had
tell
my
you,
hair.
see, what I tell you, Dre, about being
Woo!
in church, probably on stage.
No, we were in the fellowship hall. She
Oh, say,
had that haircut. She had
uh-huh.
that bob.
The short, uh-huh. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Probably wearing a
And,
pencil
and, and
skirt.
no, no, no. Let me be clear to the audience. I'm not lusting now. I have a look. I have a look. And she was everything from head to toe, had that bob. She didn't have a bunch of cosmetics on, those big, beautiful eyes. Stick to that point. I'll come back to it. She had a nice pantsuit on, and she was a little on the thicker side, how I like them. So we started
This is a man
talking.
after my own heart, right? Like,
Yes, Lord. See, let me give you a sidebar. I know what I am. But now it's not lust, it's appreciation for God's creature.
okay.
Right? So long story short, we connected and I got to her for dinner one night and we ended up going back to her crib. We're laying on the floor and we're kissing. And she says, and I quote, "I'm confused. I don't know what I'm doing and trying to do is
It's
confusing.
confusing.
Maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe I need to put my foot on this gas pedal." She says, and I quote, "Who are you now?
Mm.
Harold or Pastor Van?" End quote.
Oh.
I wasn't being the person she knew me as. She was a member of the congregation, although living away.
Mm-hmm.
When you realize the call of God on your life to lead people spiritually, that's why in the book of Ezekiel, shepherds who led people astray are going to be held accountable on Judgment Day.
Mm.
Yeah.
I was misleading women, Barzini. I was conflicting women because most of my bedroom escapades came from church girls.
We talked about that too. When I
And
tell you,
these big, beautiful eyes looked up at me. She said, "I'm confused.
Mm.
Who are you now?" So I don't want to be too graphic, but you remember the game, Miss Pac-Man? You remember the sound the game
Mhm.
made when you were eating?
Mm-hmm.
All of my lust, all of my erotic desire, all of that was
Mm-hmm.
convicted.
My God.
You're only convicted when you still have a conscience. I'm not being who she thinks I am. Now, if I want all of this splendor and pulchritude and beauty, do it the right way. Marry her. Because I'll sure get it all if I marry her.
Mm-hmm.
So the call of God is on your life because of grace.
Mm-hmm.
Unmerited favor. Bishop Kenneth Omer says grace is when God gives you what you don't
Don't
deserve.
deserve. Yeah.
Mercy is when God doesn't give you
Oh.
what you do deserve.
Mhm.
Oh, I was operating under grace. Needless to say, none of my genitalia worked after that moment. I just got up and I drove home.
Sheesh.
The anointing is when God ordains you for a particular religious order. I ordained you. I established you. So when you talk ordination, it's in the context of validation and calling. Baptist congregations think they call you to be the pastor. No, that's what ordination is. You didn't call me to be nothing. You don't have the authority to do that. See, that's the problem with Baptist polity. That's what my doctoral thesis is about. Baptist polity. It's the problem. So the call of God and the anointing establishes me to be the spiritual leader. I wasn't acting that way because I thought I can play with her at night and be her pastor during the day, and it doesn't work.
That's good.
And God knows I was in a bunch of houses at night.
Yeah. Hey, look.
Because I foolishly thought, you know, the premise of Men in Black. You put on the glass or they zap you and your memory's gone. I foolishly, ignorantly thought I can zap that memory Sunday morning. Now let me serve you this. 3 congregations. The first 2 were packed when I was sleeping with a bunch of women. The third one, New Name Baptist Church, I got my life together. Wasn't nobody in there in the end. And here's what I used to tell my mother before she died, driving home from worship. Mom, you know how you can tell I'm no longer having sexual affairs with women around the church, in the church? She said, how? I said, ain't nobody in here. The church in Virginia and my plant in 2005 in Los Angeles, packed. That's relative, of course. It wasn't a Faithful Central, trust me. It wasn't a city of refuge. But a bunch of women, because I'm messing around with all of them. Now, here's the difference that I need people to understand. There's a why to the what. Don't just blame preachers now.
Right.
Oh, yeah, no.
Because I never raped anybody. I never broke a door down. You let me in. Now, here's what I discovered about the women I was dealing with. They were investing and they wanted a return when they rang the bell. Because what's the first thing they say to us, Barzini? After all I've done for you. So in the beginning, I thought women were just whorish and stupid and foolish. No, they were these church girls knew what they were doing. They were investing. They gave you their bodies, the best thing they thought they could give you. They shared money. They shared credit. They shared food. They shared everything because one day they thought you were going to choose them after all they gave you. Because I was saying, okay, this is over. I'm done.
So what would your message be to those, not those women, but women who are doing this, have done, and like from my purview, when I've been told that, like, oh, especially I gave you my body and I gave you mine. It was an equal transaction, right? And that, so it's like, just what would you say for those who are moving that way, that are looking for a return on the investment, especially after having been told what it is?
Here's what I would say.
Right?
Here's what I would say. Stop it. Stop trying to manipulate men to be your husbands. That's what's happening in the church.
God
in
told
my
me.
purview.
Yeah,
Manipulating
was my
men.
husband.
Oh, how many times did I hear that as pastor?
Oh.
Stop manipulating men. See, this is what people don't want to talk about. My cousins didn't want to talk about the why. The future judges don't want to talk about the why. They just want to focus on me. No, the light is a permanent, widespread casting. Stop manipulating men to be your husbands. And the problem is not just with males, it's female too, because you opened the door.
Yeah.
I was coming to see you at your crib. You knew I was coming. You knew what I was coming for. That's why the negligee was on. Yeah. See, we don't want to talk about that.
Kids been in bed since 6 o'clock.
Yeah. I had a rule. If you had kids, I wasn't coming when they were awake. They had to be asleep. And I mean snoring sleep. Because you know a kid has a tendency to wake up.
Who that?
Right.
Drop a little Benadryl in the juice.
I was never seen by a child. Because now here's what's interesting. And I said this in the book. I didn't want to fool a child by them seeing Pastor Vann in their house at what they knew was an inappropriate hour, but I didn't take into account that I was fooling the women.
Right.
Yeah. That's an episode in and of itself, like just those dealings and those decisions and taking accountability, or that's so much of social media right now. Like, whose fault is it, and who did what? And it's quite exhausting, but and it's because we search for the narrative that supports our belief, right?
And protects us.
And so also a friend of mine, and we talked yesterday, but we talked about this before. We were talking about our reticular activating system, right? And what it actually does. And our mind protects us. And a lot of things that it protects us from is our truth, right? Because
that's how we know how to lie.
Yeah, right. Because if we learn the truth, especially about ourselves, then we're obligated to do something about it or be haunted by it. So what does the reticular do? It's like, I only see this, I only hear this, I only gravitate towards this because this is what I know, this is what I believe, and we will protect our beliefs at all costs. Right? No matter what. Belief, from my purview, is the most powerful force in existence. We are led to salvation by it. That's literally what saves us, our belief. As you stated earlier, our actions are dictated by our beliefs, right? So everything starts with a belief. And because that belief is our foundation, to change our belief is to change us. Now, the reticular, someone can be telling you something that is true. And I had a conversation. I was like, there are some people that can ask 10 people, 9 of you can give you the same answer, and you'll reject it because that 10th supports your belief in your narrative. Yeah. And you're like, oh, see, I told you right there. See, right there. I told you everybody don't think like you, but what? And because there is comfort in mess a lot of times, right? Like, and staying the same. Change takes work. Change is definitely staying the same. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people would rather stay hurt and stay in turmoil than have to face themselves and do the work that it takes to change. It's familiar.
I think a lot of people are doing the work, but it's hurting them. And who consciously wants to hurt? So either we stop, start, ease. But ultimately, how my book the arc turn towards the healing is, I want you to see pastors differently. I want you to see pastors as people, not as called men, women, or God. Stop it.
That's
now
let me be clear. That's not a license for me to continue in my fleshly ways. It's just when you lower the pulpit and I'm among you, I believe, theoretically, as I argue in the book, you'll be more apt to forgive and grant me mercy if you saw me as a person instead of a pastor.
Right. So what would you say the pastor's responsibility in that is, right? So as somebody in the congregation or the clergy, it's like, hey, lowering the pulpit, this is how I'm looking at you, pastor, right? So to pastors, what would you say to pastors out there, and how would they contribute to meet that end that you just stated?
Okay, it begins with realizing what's in your past. Because I have not surveyed all pastors, and I'm not putting the pastors that I know personally on a platform or on stage or on blast. I'm speaking generically. All pastors are traumatized in some way or another. Let me reiterate.
I love when you
clergy statistics. 93% reported pastors trauma exposure. 93%. So you can't go to your little cute church and say, not my pastor. She is all right. It's y'all's church that's jacked up. No, 93%. Now, you know what else the research reveals? Here it comes. Typically, we deal with mental or emotional trauma through sexual methodology. So if you are having sex outside the bond of your marriage, light bulb. If you are fornicating, light bulb. If you're adulterating, light bulb. If you're a homosexual person and you're hiding and masquerading as you're a heterosexual, light bulb. If you're having sex as a man with little boys, light bulb. If you're having sex with little girls that are underage, light bulb. The key is starting to realize your behavior. And be not afraid that it disqualifies you from your call, because God's omniscience knew all of this when God called you. But God gave you free will. He doesn't overpower us, but empowers us. Here's what I say. Stop using all that Holy Ghost to shout and speak in tongues, language that can't nobody understand but you, and use the power to get you right. You say, you know what? I might need to take a leave, right? But confessing, admitting, acknowledgement, and being aware. You have a responsibility to the laity. You have to admit to the laity, I'm struggling. That's why when I started New Name in March 2013, I blew everybody out the water, because my installation service was at Faithful Central Bible Church, April 2013. And on the pulpit, post-preaching comments, I said, this is a journey of grace, because I had to learn to stop using women sexually to anesthetize my psychical and emotional trauma in front of everybody. If you want to stop bad behavior, admit it. Because now you're exposed. Because what's the hypocrisy? I'm hiding. See, I'm so secure, I don't care what you think about me. But when you tell people what you're struggling with, now they know what to pray for. The judges are going to be the judges. My cousins are going to be the cousins that judge me. But there's some folk praying for me. Dre Renee has been knowing me for years. I believe she's praying for me. Her and her husband are praying for me. I need y'all to pray that I don't reach a woman. So now here's the resolution. Every time you get your feelings hurt, Butchie, what you do? I come to the word. I come to the rock. Because I've disciplined myself. Let me tell you what I used to do. Ooh, I knew my tactic. I would pick up my phone and text her under the guise of pastoral care.
Oh, mercy.
You've been
Hello,
praying.
how are you? How are you? Yeah, the Lord laid you on my heart. Just checking on you. And I knew how to manipulate. How? I was just checking on you based on something that, oh my God, Pastor, you're so thoughtful. Oh my God, nobody calls me anymore. But you, man of God, are real. You thought about me. Well, I love you. I'm just taking care of you, just listening for you. What you doing? Oh, I was just sitting here trying to figure out what I was going to eat. Oh, okay. Well, are you hungry? That's how I start.
So
Because we're always hungry.
No, hold on. I had a woman say to me, and I knew she was coming after me sexually. She said, oh my God, you're so smart. I love philosophy. You come at the head. Oh, I love it. I love it. Can we get together for coffee? I said, no, I can't do that. We can talk in Bible class. I'll see you next week. And she said, so, well, why not? But in my mind, I said, I know I can't handle it, because physically she looked like everything I wanted in bed. And I know me. I knew what I was going to do. I would turn the coffee into a bottle of wine and then turn her up in the bedroom. I knew it. That's the beginning. Telling yourself the truth. That's how I've stayed out of bedrooms. No, Butchie, don't go over there. Bishop Noel Jones said to men, and I quote, "You're not a punk or a sissy because you can't handle something." End quote. That's what I need the power of the Holy Spirit for. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not a thief nor a liar. I don't need the Holy Ghost to keep me from stealing. You can put $20 in front of me and come back next week. It'll still be there. But you could put something right there and it won't be there when you get back. And for me, it's probably her underwear.
Yeah, I became the strongest in the world when I admitted I'm weak. Yeah.
You've got to admit the devil knows how to take you out. You're the only one fooling you. No, I can handle that. I can, because I used to say, oh, we can watch a movie at her house. The lights are off, the bottle of wine, and she's sitting there. She could be fully clothed. I know where I'm going. And I know how to manipulate this.
You are validating me in so many ways right now, because like this is the stuff that we're talking about.
I don't mean to cut you off. Dre Renee, I'm telling you the truth. The truth is, where do you start? By telling yourself the truth. You don't get help or healing if you keep lying to yourself. I have a problem with the women I want. I ain't got a problem with all women because I don't want all women. But the ones I want, I can't reach over there. That's my point.
Yeah. So everything that you just said are things that we've talked about, you know, a lot. Some of the tech, like I've shared a lot of those same, like it's what it's breadcrumbing, right? And when we talk about influence, I always say this, the definition of influence is not getting someone to say yes, it's getting them to say yes and they think it was their idea. Right. And so we know men are often presented as simple, easy, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's just like, ladies, and it is not in my best interest to say, but we move in ways that you have no idea, and it's by design. And so there are many times when you think that you are giving us something that you are not giving us. We're taking it just in a way that you are not aware of, right? A lot of things that you think that you are deciding, you are not.
Yeah, I'm listening. Keep going.
A lot of things you think you're deciding, you're not actually deciding. A lot of things that you think were your idea were not your idea. I'm not speaking in absolutes. I'm not speaking all the time, but men are not nearly as simple as you think we are. And we're operating in ways that you have like we know, and we might call it like, oh, bro, yeah, like we know what we're doing.
Well, you know what I call that? I think there's male and female. That's just human nature. We're manipulative at birth. Yeah, the word manipulate comes from the word manus. Manus means hands, hand. We put our hands on everything in order to control it. Men and women do that. Kids do it.
Yeah.
The child plays mommy against daddy.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you know how to do that?
Daddy, I thought you was in charge of the house. After mama
but mama said I could eat half the cookie. No, she didn't.
Right.
I called my 4-year-old niece, thought she was slick, trying to get some extra cereal because her mama left her. Her mama left her and her brother some cereal for when they got home from school as a little snack, and so they ate it. Her brother got in trouble, so I put him in the bed to take a nap when he was on a little timeout. Mom comes home, so my niece runs over to mom. They're twins, by the way. So she runs over like, "Hey, mom, yeah, Zayden had some cereal," as if to suggest that she didn't.
Yeah,
and
that's human nature.
Yeah, she forgets I'm sitting right there. I was like, "Ma'am, your little 4-year-old manipulating lying self, you had some too. Now you're going to lay down for lying."
And I think that's the key toward healing. We have to start to. That's what the prodigal son did in the pig pen. He told himself the truth. He left his father. You know the story. He ended up in squalor. The key is to recognize you're in mess. You're in the wrong place. And so what I'm asking pastors to do is to not stop doing what you're addicted to yet, but start admitting yourself the truth. Because when you admit yourself the truth, then you'll stop it. So I'm so powerful now by the Holy Spirit, no one can talk me into nothing. And I'm not going when I'm hurt. See, I used to go to bedrooms after getting hurt. You have to ask yourself, now, when am I going to Nordstrom? Right after you get hurt. When am I going to the Gucci store? Right after you get hurt. Why am I back and forth to Vegas at Caesar's Palace gambling? Right after you got hurt. Everything you're doing to make you feel better is right after something made you feel bad.
Wow. Well, this, I mean, has been mind blowing. I'm just getting all the gems, and I really, really hope that our watchers, listeners, roadies and road dogs, as we call them, have really, really internalized this. And, you know, we can give a call to action, right? So don't just listen, but actually, if you can identify with this, your hurt may not be the same, but if you are experiencing hurt nonetheless, that you are trying to numb or cover, you know, that's an indicator that something is injured. And so we encourage you to get help. And we've said that on the show many times, but now hearing this story, we hope that it really, really takes root. So as we wrap here, what would you say is next for you in your journey of both healing, but also your professional journey, writing, filmmaking, so on and so forth.
Yes, many have asked me, I'll start with healing. Many have asked me, was the writing cathartic? No, because I had already healed by the time I started to write the book, which is clearly around 22, the latter part of 22, because misery dictated my life. I couldn't create. So right after I resigned from pastoral ministry and retired October 22, my creativity came back because I was lifted. So I had already healed, so it wasn't cathartic. But you can journal, you can write a book, you can write a sentence, and that could be your catharsis. Catharsis is when you're starting to confront it. And that starts with you, or it could be with other people. And so I'm healed. What's in the future for me, pastoral ministry one-on-one. Let me tell you what's happening, folks. I believe the Black couch has now been transformed from a place whereupon I had sex to a structure now upon where we can heal. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you what happened. I was at my athletic club and I would write before I worked out, right in the common area. I sat in a chair to the right was a couch. An older white, matter of fact, no, he wasn't. He was younger than me. We had Duke University in common. He was Duke undergrad. I was Duke graduate school. We would chat and talk, passing by, that kind of stuff. One day, December 2023, he sat down and he said, Harold, can I tell you something? I said, sure. And I took my glasses off. He said, my wife doesn't know this. And he started crying. God's going to use me to help people facilitate their own healing. Something I probably could not have done to the degree I'm going to do it while high up on that pulpit. So you can have the robes, you can have all this pomp and circumstance and liturgical formality. I want to get in the pig pen and the dirt, meet people where they are, never judging. See, here's what I dislike about my cousin. Why are you judging me? And I'm telling you, I'm hurting. And the why to the what. So I just want to give people a platform to the why to the what. And it's already happening. People are telling me things, and it's an epiphany. This is how the Lord's going to use me to help people facilitate their own healing, to get them to the place where they need to go. Ultimately, now I want to write and produce documentaries, entertainment. One project's in front of the camera. I want to host a talk show, but I don't want to discuss your successes. I want to deal with your struggles. And it's going to be in an entertaining way, but the Holy Spirit's going to work to where people are going to say, I want to sit down with Dr. Harold Vann because I'm ready to stop. I want to sit down with Dr. Vann because I'm ready to start.
Yeah.
Or the running light moment will be, no, I ain't messing with you. Why? Because I know if I sit down with you, my life will pour out. And I'll end with this example. In that same setting at my athletic club, in our chair, I was writing, had my glasses on. A lady sits down, plops down, waiting on her next training session. She's a trainer. And I said, how are you? Hello. How's your day going? Oh, fine, Harold. Da, 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 da. So she had told me about some prior familiar issues. I said, oh, how's that going? She said, da, 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 da. I said, so why did you do that? Her countenance changed. Her body language changed. And she started crying. And then she said, and I quote, Harold Vann, I ain't messing with you. I better get off this couch because if I sit here too much longer, you'll know my whole life story. So lightly she ran. That's what people are doing. They're running away from their truth. So some people are going, no, dude, I ain't sitting down with you. I ain't ready to go to that vulnerable place like you were alluding to earlier. That's what God's going to do with me all around the country. The public persona will be, I'm the glue. I ain't a hammer. I'm here to mend. Not judge. And ultimately that looks like one project I want to talk about, mentorship in the urban community. That's my second book. And then thirdly, I want to deal with the reimagination of the Black male image. And it starts off by talking about made in his image. So I'm not a thug. I'm not a beast. I'm not a criminal. I'm not a dog. I'm not an Nigger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm made in the image of God, rethinking male image. And that's where I'm headed.
Awesome.
So now the focus is to get this manuscript accepted by a literary agent. So thank you for this opportunity to get on your platform with your thousands of listeners. You never know, because the story goes like this. T.D. Jakes preached at the Azusa Street Conference under the leadership of Bishop Carlton Pearson. He passed on this year, went on to be with the Lord. And at TBN, Trinity Broadcast Network, Orange County, Paul Crouch owner, Carlton was in the editing room, editing that tape. Walking by, he heard Jakes, didn't know it was Jakes. Does the Michael Jackson moonwalk backward, asked Carlton, who's that? Play me a little bit more. Next week, Jakes was on TBN. So the point is, somebody could be on this podcast, listener, and say that book has to get published. And so that's what I need at this point, because again, I want to go traditional publishing. And the process, as you already know, I need a literary agent, because your major houses don't take walk-ins or walk-ups. They want you to have representation. Now, the challenge with getting representation is, if a literary agent accepts you, now they are obligated to sell that book. They got to get you a deal. They can't sign you and do nothing with you. So that's the stalling. That's the slow. That's why it's not working, because the response I'm getting, it looks good, I love the premise, is just not for me. So in proper timing, somebody said, yeah, that's my manuscript.
That's for me.
Let me have it. And I think the Crossroads podcast will be a wonderful platform for You Never Know. Somebody will say, I wasn't even trying to watch that episode. I was trying to see the previous, and I tuned in. This peanut head dude said something that hooked me. And she is a literary agent, or her husband is, or her sister-in-law, somebody knows and connects me. That's how I think Varzinia is going to work.
It's going to work.
I believe
you've
it.
already had the vision and the plan in place. You are the plan, as you alluded to earlier.
Oh yeah,
and you're on your way. So we appreciate you and all the time. This is a great conversation, a great episode.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to read the book and see all the work that's going to come from it.
and when the book is published, one of my first stops will not be a major Jennifer Hudson or Oprah. I'm coming back to you.
Boom! Y'all heard it here first.
I was gonna say.
You heard it here.
Hold me to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now I may be in a different time zone. I may be in another part of the country, but I'm
That's
coming
all
back
right.
to you.
We in different time zones now. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we in 3 different. Yeah, I'm in Houston.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're definitely used to that. That's why we make it work. But we are going to go into our final thoughts. Jerry, you want to land the plane for us?
Oh, well, thank you again, Dr. Vann, for being here, yes, but, being transparent, sharing your story, sharing even your journey to publishing. There's someone that has written a book, a manuscript right now, and is wondering, what are my next steps? I felt led to write all this down, and now what? And so I believe whether it is helping to heal trauma, or if it is helping them to get their book from out of their heads into the hands and hearts of people, that you have absolutely helped with that. And I also appreciate you for being here and being a guest on our show. And as much as I pray that we are able to help you on your journey, that that you're helping us as we're turning a page and celebrating a milestone on this journey. We're looking to reach as many people as we can with this message. And so I believe that we will be good partners with this episode and going forward. So thank you so much for sharing that. I definitely, my personal takeaway, of course, as you shared the story of the prodigal son, I'm not supposed to be here. And that resonated with me. I didn't get deep into my stuff. But I was telling Barzini last week in a crowd of 40,000 people, I heard the voice of God, like I was in a room by myself, about me, and about it being time for me to focus on me. And, how he had seen how much I had given and prayed for others and done for others. And it's time for me. And so when I heard you say that, I'm like, yeah, and I don't liken what I'm doing for others to being in a pig pen per se, but what I have perhaps said no to for myself, or what I have not gone forward with for myself, right? I'm not in the place that I'm supposed to be. And so I've taken that personally. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope that resonates with someone else. And so thank you. Thank you.
May I say this?
Yes.
In my final words, I'm sure you'll close it out the way you fashionably do. I apologize to every woman I've misused while in my trauma. I'm sorry.
Wow.
On behalf of all Black men in general who've hurt women, I apologize. We were traumatized and didn't know it. You deserve better.
Ooh.
I almost don't want to do my final thoughts now.
I was just like, right. I was like, ooh.
We might edit that and put it at the end.
Put it at the end. I'm like, yeah. Oh, wow.
But from my final thoughts, I would say this: we all have a Black couch, whether we know it or not. Amen. But I would say to the audience right now, I want you to picture a Black couch. I want you to picture every version of yourself on that Black couch. And, I write that our path to purpose is a constant reintroduction to the many versions of ourselves that we will become. And so I want you to allow every version that is sitting on that Black couch to speak to the version that you are today. What would they say to you? What would be the charge for you moving forward to vindicate from that part of your life, to make it right, so that you are not constantly reliving every version that is sitting there, every failed version that is sitting there, that you are not repeating the generational, not even just the generational curses, but just yourself, your generations, right? Because it will affect your future. What is your future? Who are you? Right? You are defined by every person that is sitting on that Black couch, and every person that is on that Black couch is you. And so I want you to listen to the voices that are sitting on that Black couch. And so now when you can do that, what does that Black couch turn into for you? Again, your place of healing. And so now you are sitting on this version of you today is now sitting on the Black couch with every other version that is sitting there. And now that you can bond and you can heal together, and you can apologize to every version of you that you have failed, so that you can move forward. So I encourage and I implore all of you, so that you can have and experience the life that you are meant for, the life that you visualize, the life that you have been praying for. It starts with a lot of healing of everybody that is on your Black couch. And so that is my call to action for you today.
Yeah.
But I thank everybody for tuning in, y'all. We can do so much more time on this. You definitely have an open invite, but most certainly when the book is published and you have your agent and your publishing company, we want to invite you back for the first exclusive. But in the meantime, in between time, y'all, this has been another episode of the Crossroads Podcast. We thank you. We appreciate you. Don't forget to go to the Patreon. Subscribe, like, follow us. Go to the Patreon, become members on our Patreon for all the behind the scenes and our exclusive content. And in closing, as always, remember,
be free to be you.
We'll see you all next time.
Bye.
This has been the Crossroads Podcast. And remember, be free to be you.